Victoria Luck, who's going to be sharing her research about the problems faced by autistic women at work and solutions to them, results from Poland. So if I unmute myself, and then have you got a PowerPoint to share?
Yes, I do. Just let me. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, there we go.
Great.
There we go.
Please.
And then hopefully everybody can see that.
Yeah. So let
Brilliant.
me just set up my notes. Okay. So hello everyone. My name. Oops.
Yeah.
Technical hits there.
Oh, wait a moment. Okay. Yeah, I think Victoria, don't know why, was thrown out. Yeah, just brought it back in.
Oh, here I am.
Oh, hi Victoria. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
I'm not sure either. Maybe I pushed the wrong button or something. So let me just share again. I apologize.
Don't worry. Okay. Right. That.
I hope it doesn't happen again. So hello everyone. My name is Wiktoria. I'm a critical autism studies student here at Edgehill University. I did my undergraduate thesis on autistic women, on employed autistic women, and explored topics such as the challenges that they face at work, among others. I did it at the University of Warsaw. So I'm new to the UK. I'm new to Edgehill, and today I will share a little bit about my results. So we'll start off with establishing what we already know about autistic people and employment. Then I'll talk briefly about the research, the questions, and the methodology. And then we'll move on to the central part of the presentation. We'll talk through the possible challenges that autistic women may face at work and the possible solutions to these challenges. And lastly, I'll attempt to draw some conclusions and recommendations. So we know that we as autistic people struggle a lot on the job market, and actually only a minority of us holds a job, and we are more prone to being underemployed, which means that our skills are actually underutilized, and we're in a position not suitable to our education and skill level. And a similar term for that is overeducation, which also means that we're just our competencies are way higher than what is needed for the job. And Romoser in the year 2000 coined the term malemployment, which means a situation where a person is in a position not suitable not only for their skills, but also their individual needs and preferences. So, for example, he gave an example of an autistic person working in a busy fast food restaurant. And this is the case for many of my many of my interviewees, what I will show later on. And we are also more likely to be employed only part-time. And there are several possible hypotheses of why we struggle so much on the job market. I would argue that part of it has to do with our brains being very interest-driven. So we might, for example, opt for jobs that are somehow connected to our special interests, but have far less than perfect conditions. Or we also can get exhausted more easily in jobs that we perceive as arduous and boring. And while we are at exhaustion, because we mask a lot and we get overloaded with environmental stimuli more easily, we need to rest and regenerate more often than our neurotypical peers. So full-time jobs may be just out of our reach for many of us. And lastly, we struggle because we're misunderstood by employers and looked upon through the deficit lenses. On a positive note, though, studies show that autistic workers are just as productive as their neurotypical peers. Not to say that our value lays solely in productivity, but as we live in a neoliberal society, it is what it is. We also excel at integrity and attention to detail. And there are several things that can be done to increase retention rate of autistic employees. And this list includes flexible hours, work that is meaningful, work culture that truly embraces neurodiversity and not only treats us autistic people in a tokenistic way, and having at least one colleague who understands autism and can serve as a mediator in cases of issues or misunderstandings. So moving to my research, it was originally meant to measure skill mismatch in autistic women, but lots of other interesting things came up, and today I will be focusing on the problems that my interviewees face at work and the possible solutions to these problems. So I conducted 10 semi-structured in-depth interviews. All my interviewees were Polish and white, because Polish is an ethnically homogeneous country. So bear in mind that women of color might experience these challenges I will talk about a little bit differently. My interviewees were between 23 and 40 years old. Most of them held a higher educational degree or were about to graduate with one. Interviews were conducted and coded in Polish, and then the quotes that you will see shortly on the screen were translated into English. And the topics of conversations explored educational and professional biographies of my interviewees, job satisfaction, advantages and disadvantages of the positions they worked at, and problems faced at work. So sensory overload was one of the many things that came up in conversations. Out of my interviewees, those women who worked in office settings mentioned that open spaces, very common in corporate environments, were very overwhelming because of all the noise of other people walking around you. But sensory overload doesn't apply only to office settings. One of my interviewees had to actually resign from working at a preschool because all the chaos and noise was exhausting her so much that she was worried that she wouldn't be able to tend to her own children after a shift. And now this woman works as a virtual assistant. When it comes to communicating with clients, those who worked in the service industry relied a lot on memorized scripts to know what to say. One of the women claimed that scripts made her a good worker, a cashier to be exact, but she didn't have any scripts for talking with her colleagues. So the communication with them was worse and she was more stressed. Another woman admitted that she couldn't engage in small talk with the patrons at her restaurant, and it caused her great distress also. I'll give you a second to look at the quotes. My interlocutors often felt exhausted during or after work and reported symptoms of burnout. It made them unable to engage in other activities outside of work, thus disturbing their work-life balance. I would argue that it's at least partially due to masking their neurodivergent traits, even subconsciously, because they not always knew that they were autistic at the time. Separation of work and social relationships with the colleagues also came up on multiple occasions. Neurotypical work culture involves a lot of team building and hanging out outside of work hours. And the women I spoke with found it often boring, tiring, or just unnecessary. One of them mentioned trying to engage in these activities in spite of herself, which ended in huge discomfort, basically. So also so we also can say that it was some kind of masking and like powering through things that made her distressed. Miscommunication was another frequent theme. One of my interviewees stressed that she and her colleagues thought in vastly different ways, and she was forced to compromise her way of thinking to fit into the supervisor's expectations of her. Another woman told me a story from when she was working at a coffee shop. Her boss asked her to retrieve oat milk from the bag because it was running out. And then she scolded her for not paying attention to the fact that soy milk was also running low, while the girl was just trying her best to follow through the instructions she was given. The situation shows the importance of very precise communication between a neurotypical employer and autistic employee. My interviewees came up with multiple solutions to the problems they were facing to make working easier for them. Flexible working conditions, including the possibility to work remotely and task-oriented time instead of working just from 9 to 5, were one of the most influential. And it can be achieved by either self-employment, as it was in the case of one of the women I spoke with, or by negotiating with supervisors. One woman has found that weekly one-on-one meetings with her boss help her offload any baggage that she might have accumulated during the week and discuss any problems that come up regularly. Another woman requested an endowment for a pair of noise-canceling headphones to be able to work in an open space. And here you can see a quote from one of the actually the only woman who spoke about being really seen in a positive way, and who really had her workplace very accommodating and positive, and very flexible working conditions and lack of very rigid structure and very rigid work culture was a main reason that she enjoyed working there. So to conclude, flexible conditions where possible are a crucial accommodation. But first, we need more acceptance of not only our neurodivergent traits, but of human diversity in general. Like, for example, introversion and hidden disabilities, and just the fact that people enjoy different things and not everyone might want to engage in, for example, team building, or not everyone will think in the same way. Employers need to be aware of their autistic employees' strengths and encourage them to utilize them. Most of my interlocutors learned that they were autistic later in life. So I think that an early and more accessible diagnosis would help them better understand themselves and negotiate better accommodations. And finally, we need neurodivergence-informed career support to promote entrepreneurship among autistic people and to help them better understand the strengths and weaknesses and craft the careers in accordance with those strengths and weaknesses, and not in spite of them or against them. And I believe that only then, with this kind of support, we'll be able to work without the risk of burning out very early on. Thank you. And here there are the references, my email and my Twitter if you'd like to screenshot.
Thank you, Wiktoria. If you just leave that on for a few seconds so that people can take a screenshot if they want to.